Okay, so Angelica asked me to record my reactions to the John story, and I have it in this envelope here. And I'm going to open it. I haven't read any of the story yet. But I was told by Angelica that there would be a story about the color clashing clothing, so I decided to wear it for this video because I'm that awesome. Oof. Alright, so I'm going to read the story out loud, and I'm going to record. It's going to be, I'm scared for my life. Like, literally. Okay. What kind of a title? Angelica Ramos, after I finish this, I'm going to come to your house and yell at you for being an idiot. It's a mall world after all. P.S. There's no regrets for that terrible joke in the title. AMR. No, don't even, I said, putting out an arm dramatically, keeping Sid's arm's length away with my hand practically in her face. You, of all people, should not even be talking to anyone about fashion. I don't dress that terribly anymore, Sid protested, pushing aside my arm. Shall I bring up the topic of birthday color clashing again? I threatened. That will totally delight Haley, bringing up that quote-unquote from Michael Kors fashion idiocy award winner. Yes, I know, Sid said nonchalantly, waving off my, or really, Haley's criticism of that one tragic moment in middle school. Dear Jesus. That's like an entire paragraph about that stupid thing. Okay, whatever, I'm gonna keep reading. Black and red zebra-striped pants that Haley said couldn't match with anything, I continued, but I proved her wrong on that part. The white and blue turquoises, whatever, hoodie, whose previously white stripes were the color of 20-year-old Coke sitting in a sewer. And then neon green Converse. This is white. This is like whiter than Julia's skin white. Yes, this is the same outfit, except for I was wearing a different shirt, but I figured the orange would be better for the color clashing. So, you know. Got all the colors of the rainbow, except yellow, because I hate yellow. Red, orange. Yellow is in the orange and the bright green. Green, blue. I guess no purple. No, yellow's my hair. And there's like yellow spaghetti on my shirt. I don't have any purple, though. Whatever. Where was I? I don't know how all those, in the neon green Converse, I don't know how all of those things can come out of the same closet of the girl who supposedly willingly wants to start an RCE fashion line? What? Neither do I, agreed Sid when we stood there in silence before she finally asked, will you do it? Fine, I told her now, crossing my arms over my chest, and I could tell that the glee on Sydney's face at my answer faded when I continued. But I do what I want, and the others, I referred to the other prospective designers with a tone of patronizing disgust, do little more than pick fabrics and make the clothes that I design. I can deal with that, Sid said, shrugging. So do you have any idea of what you want the theme of the collection to be, I asked, raising an eyebrow at her quizzically. Nope, Sid replied, looking undeniably proud of her unpreparedness. It's not my job to criticize your lack of planning or thought. That's Haley's thing, too. So, I said with a slight wry grin on my face. Perfect. When I had accepted Sydney's proposition of having me design her first RCE fashion line, I told her that I was the one to design. And when I meant design the clothes, of course, and design the list of models. Sydney obviously did not take this into account when I slapped a hastily typed list of models that actually have accepted the job to walk down the runway for the initial showing of my designs on the design room wall. The list was big, the list was long, and the list had every other male model. With the name John. The truly funny thing was, the only one of them who was truly German, and he was the one who I accidentally gave directions to Sydney's house to. Whoops, actually, no, I have no regrets. JEB, that stands for John Einstein Baumgartner. Okay. I was unsure of what exactly to think when I approached the destination for the pre-runway photo shoot. It looked, in very simply terms, like a house. A magnificently large one, no less, painted in a wonderfully done white and splashed with nice little colorful details around the windows and between the stones of 50 Shades of Grey. Yet still a house. Between the stones of Whoa, what? Angelica, why would you put a 50 Shades of Grey reference into a story about me? That's gross. This whole story's gross. yet still a house. Nearly the second I rang the doorbell, the door opened before me, revealing quite a surprise. An androgynous woman, but a woman nonetheless, with fair blonde hair cropped short with a relatively average stature. Though it was the eyes, her eyes. John was standing in the doorway dressed like... Oh, fuck. There's backside. But it was the eyes, her eyes, that caused me to stop and truly take a double take. Brilliantly blue as of the ocean that lay so close, as of the sky that towered above. This is like... Angela, how do you know how to write all this romantic shit? That's what I want to know. I recognized her after a few fleeting seconds of scrutinizing her appearance. Sydney Ragsdale-Cronin. What luck. Billionaire, philanthropist, multilinguist, and an asexual according to whatever information I have heard over the years. Hi? She asked, looking just as surprised as I was. Who are you? John, I answered, and her confusion was utterly obvious, and so I added sheepishly, the model. Of course, she wouldn't have time to look through the list of models. She's probably too busy directing her entire company. At least it's refreshing to finally see a woman with an initiative. Most of the twig bitches I work with are such narcissistic bores. Oh, Sid replied, the clueless look slightly fading from her face, whose blue eyes locked on my own face. A small part of me, the part that hadn't been mournful when I broke up with Ion Molecule. When I broke up with Ion Molecule almost hoped that she had taken an interest in me. Then I realized that it was more of a forced professional look. So, what are you doing here? Going to the shoot, I answered, now feeling incredibly stupid and confused. Sid looked down at the ground in thought for a moment, 100 different thoughts likely running through her mind as she processed what I was saying. I caught the tail of a fleeting side comment. You too, Angel. Let's go, Sid said, shutting the door behind her and starting to walk down the pathway to a limousine that had suddenly appeared. John, my name was forced in the most obvious way. She did not like me. That was obvious. Okay. I'm doing okay now. It's a little less weird, because I don't like him at first, I guess. AMR. Angelica, obviously. I was just finishing up, hand-sewing the hem of a gorgeous white and violet gown as Sydney burst into the room, face contorted in flush pink rage. You did not just send a German man with nice calves to my house, Sid yelled, and her blue eyes narrowed, and there were muffled snickers resounding throughout the room. Out! All of you, out! Oh, so you think he has nice calves? I managed with a wry grin as I started to cluelessly pack up the dark thread when Sydney purposely flicked my ear as I was removing the needle. 3 droplets of blood dripped on the ground along with the muffled shit. You deserve it, bitch. Sydney said, hands on her hips as she glared at me. I stuck my pricked, bleeding thumb into my mouth and sucked on it for a minute until the pain of my finger had cooled and vanished. Then I finally bit my thumb at Sydney in an old-fashioned response to her insult. Do you bite your thumb at us, sir? Quoted Sid theatrically. I do bite my thumb, sir, I answered with an appropriate response as I stood up. I do not bite my thumb at you, sir, but I do bite my thumb, sir. Do you quarrel, sir? Quarrel, sir? No, sir. And suddenly from the doorway behind us, rebellious subjects, enemies to peace, profaners of this neighborhood, stained steel, will they not hear? What ho, you men, you beasts, what quench the fire of your pernicious rage, with purple fountains issuing from your veins, on pain of torture, whose bloody hands throw your mistempered weapons to the ground, and hear the sentence of your moved prince. 3 city brawls, bred of an airy word by thee, old Capulet and Montague, have thrice disturbed the peace of our streets, and made Verona's ancient citizens cast by their grave beseeming ornaments to wield old partisans in hands as old, cankered with peace, to part your cankered hate. If ever you disturb our streets again, your lives shall pay the forfeit of the peace. For this time all the rest depart away. You, Capulet, shall go along with me, and Montague, come you this afternoon. You to know our further pleasure in this case, to old Freetown, our common judgment place, once more on pain of death, all men depart. He's quoting Romeo and Juliet? What is this? John was standing in the doorway, dressed were it not for the lack of a buttoned shirt. He's not wearing a shirt? He was watching us with calm blue eyes, the peacemaker, the warden in a brewing war. Or should I say, as I was whispering in Sydney's ear at the time, what a Prince Charming for you, Sydney. And with that, I slipped out of the room through the other door, right as her hand was aimed swiftly at my cheek. Sark. That's me. I wasn't exactly fazed by John's sudden appearance. It was more the fact that he was only just buttoning his shirt. Though I suppose it's better his shirt than his pants. Is the day so young? He asked me in an attempt to break the ice, cut the silence, whatever you want to call it. I was silent for a moment longer, checking my watch before I replied with the requisite. But news struck 9. A slight smile crossed John's face. Then his expression became mournful. Whether it was true sadness or not, I couldn't tell. Ay me, sad hours seemed long. Was that my friend that went hence so fast? It was. What other sadness lengthens John's hours? It was one of the few moments I slipped up in my lines. John was not Romeo. Nope, never. Not having that which having makes them short. John continued, unfazed by my mistake as he came closer to my vicinity with each word. I remained stoic. In love, out. Of love, out of her favor where I am in love. John's face at this point was barely 3 inches from my own. So you need love advice? I asked, wanton and unrepressed and utterly ignorant. Out of her favor where I am in love? I could almost feel the kicks of my friends and their egging shout whispers as it all clicked and came together in my head. My eyes going wide. Shit. Oh, fuck. Fuck. Okay, I'm getting scared now. Okay. AMR. The shoot was going great, with the white walls clean and perfect apart from the purposeful streaks of colored duct tape that lined patterns that were frustratingly confusing when you looked at them directly. But that was not what was on my mind as I took a step back and let the others finally take true part. Martha and Hadley, you two are in charge for now. They looked at me gratefully as I turned and swiped a finger across the screen of my tablet, replacing the consistently appearing images of the photos with a live security feed of the design room. Sid and John were simply staring at each other at the moment, matching sets of strikingly cerulean eyes wide open. I pressed a button on my Bluetooth and grinned in excitement as I called Cameron, Tegan, and all the others. All but Sid. Guys, I told them urgently as soon as they had all picked up. Be here in 5 minutes, tops. Then I hung up without a word heard of their protests. Sure enough, they all arrived within my required time limit just in time to review the recording footage, but not without half lines of what the and you mother and I shut them all up for exactly 1 moment with a simple, definite answer of John, until they all burst into a round of laughter, squeals, and applause, at which point I turned the tablet screen toward them, and then we all watched together, grinning far too happily for our own good. What? You guys are Angelica, what the fuck? This is like some kind of, they're quoting Shakespeare, right? Is this some kind of like Caesarian conspiracy, like in Julius Caesar? Like, instead of like the 12, the 6 against poor Julius. Oh my god. But that Julius sounds more like Julia, and that's just weird. And I'm not reading that one out loud. No, J.E.B. The silence between us was haunting and actually quite terrifying. I wasn't sure whether Sydney was going to beat me with the nearest metal hanger or kiss me or slap me or anything at all. This all from her conflicted facial expressions. So, like any other stupid love-struck man, I said something, and by something, I mean something. Dane, Augen, Sindai, Gubich, Farbe, y mien Porsche. Notes. That translates to your eyes are the color of my Porsche, which in fact is a legit German pickup line. I'm pissed off. Oh, God, Jesus. Oh, thanks, I said in Whoa. Oh, fuck. I got some patch. And Sid burst out laughing, a strange though somehow charmingly unique sound. Though I am not certain anymore, I added on sheepishly, because my Porsche isn't here, but you are. I don't know whether to take your pickup lines as compliments or insults, Sydney said, her cheeks flushed with a shade of rosy pink. Take them as both, I suggested, and she smiled. So, Sid said, somehow looking nervous even for an empowered woman. Can I take you out tomorrow night? I blurted out, not so smoothly. I immediately gave myself a mental facepalm and simply tried to grit my teeth and try to smile through my embarrassment. What? Sid said, her mouth gaping open and her eyes wide open. With that, she rid herself of her confusion fairly quickly as her face returned to its original neutral state and she slapped me across the face. Hard. That's creepy though. He's just like, can I take you out tonight, please? I'm just like, bitch. Slap him across the face. Cause Sydney gets her shit done. That's right, bitch. Alright. So I take that as a no, I said sheepishly, smiling through the pain of my burning cheek. And of course, somewhere in the distance, I heard a chorus of the rejection echoing. No. To be honest, the rejection hurt. Also, to be honest, it hurt because it was the only rejection I actually truly didn't want to happen. I dealt with those sparing past refusals, even liking one denial ones. Back when I was younger and was dared to ask a girl out. Chin up, Sydney said, and suddenly my confusion was back. Yes. She's... What? I asked, so your answer is yes? No, Sydney replied. I mean, yes, Sid said. We can go and hang out later. I could almost hear the unspoken words hanging at the tip of her tongue, but not as a date. Okay, great, I answered. When should I drop by tomorrow? I don't know, Sid replied, shrugging. 4 or 5, something like that. Sure, I agreed, and within the next few moments was swept away by the designers in a hurry to get the photos done. I would not do that. Angelica Ramos, as soon as I finish this, I'm coming to your house, and I'm going to stab you with this. It's very sharp. Okay, damn it, I just realized. Okay, Sark, that's me. I stood there on my own in silence, trying to comprehend what in the world had just what I had just done moments before. Did I really just say yes to hanging out with a guy alone, or as Haley would call it, a date? Did a German man named John with nice calves seriously just use German pickup lines on me? Is the world preparing to end yet? I started to walk out the door, rubbing my temples and staring at the ground. What is happening to me? I ran into a wall a couple of times before actually looking up like a rationally thinking person would to see that the door was actually a few feet to my left. Oh, I said, and returned to my original position as I passed through the doors. I walked past the requisite huddle of the others, whispering far too loudly for their own good. Then they all turned to barrage me with questions. I simply pointed a finger at them and told them fairly shut up as I walked on by. I numbly waited outside for exactly 3 minutes for Albert, who I had previously thought would be the one and only man I would love, at least in the way that a kid loves her jacked-up uncle. Now I'm so afraid that I will love John. I got into the car, and Albert didn't even ask a single question of why my face was still burning red and I looked like I was going to have a mental breakdown at any given second. Sydney, Albert said uncertainly through the thick haze of my thoughts. We're at home now. Oh, thanks, I said and stumbled out of the car down the pathway to my house. I pushed past Beatty, who opened the door to me, and didn't even turn around to see the indignant, offended look on his face. I ran upstairs, grabbing my red thinking bucket on the way up, and collapsed on my bed with a completely blank mind for once in my life. I put the stupid bucket on my head, and suddenly the only thing that came up in my head was what I learned back in 8th grade in family life class. I honestly did not think that anything Mrs. Fernandez taught me would actually be applicable to real life. To make decisions, specifically moral ones, you have to stop, think, observe, and decide. Stop. I was splayed out on the fluffy blankets with a bucket on my head, and I felt freezing cold, chilled to the bone, so I think I qualified as calmed down and settled, for me at least. Think. What was the solution? Well, a man fitting the exact description of my predicted future boyfriend of my childhood literally just asked me out. Am I in danger? Not inherently, but my reputation as an asexual badass inventor is in danger. Do I have any helpful tools or resources? Nope, unless you count my fists, which could, in theory, knock out John so that we could ship him back to Germany or Crate. Observe. Well, it's hard to observe much with my face smashed into my bed. Are there any signs or directions nearby to tell me what to do? I don't want to think that hard, so no. Is there anyone I could ask for help from? Tegan? Nope. Cameron? Not a single chance. Angelica? No. My mother? Why did I even consider that for a second? Hell to the no. I have no one. Can my actions lead to future danger? I don't think so, but it's me I'm talking about, so any action of mine can and will find a way to lead to future danger. Decide, make a plan, and with what I have discovered, I will go, not on a date, on a stupid hangout with a German man with nice calves, with John. I will allow the others to fuck up who I am just so that they can get to what they want. I'm done. I was done the second John told me that my eyes were the color of his Porsche. What the fuck? AMR. I was not even surprised when I got the phone call from Sydney at 3 o'clock in the morning. Long-term insomnia is not healthy, obviously, but for Sid, it's something she has to deal with. My phone was buzzing at on my nightstand somehow loudly, and I blinked blindly groped for it, and I answered with a drowsy, hello? I hate your guts, Sydney said, and I rolled my eyes at her greeting. But you love the rest of me, I added on, laying back down in bed with my eyes closed. A moment of silence. Not a single word of denial. But she did get my attention by saying, I'm hanging out with John tomorrow. My eyes snapped open, and I immediately sat up. What? Yeah, Sid said. I could just imagine her face red as she paced the room, likely telling BD to shut up every few minutes because insomnia is apparently hereditary. Well, then again, it's Sid. The only thing she fucks is logic. Fuck me up. Oh, what the hell? I asked, narrowing my eyes as I laughed. Equally embarrassed, laughter echoed on Sid's side of the call as she tried to calm herself down. No. Sid tried to explain. Not in that way. I mean, you can get the others. Sounds like you're talking about an orgy, I commented, and she burst into laughter. Yes, but no, Sid replied. I mean, you can torture me with the others. I'm allowing you to fuck up who I am. I opened my mouth to comment, but was interrupted as Sid continued. As in, choose what I wear, do my makeup, etc. I do have a limit, though. Okay, great, I said hurriedly and hung up after a quick bye. I'm scared now. I'm like, really scared now, and I want to check Facebook, so, hold on. What the fuck? Oh, dear Jesus. Angelica likes my comment. Okay, whatever. So I'm going to continue reading the story because it's scary. I had to take a break for a second. Okay now. J.E.B. She was beautiful, but not in the same way that I had originally seen her. She was beautiful now in a more familiar yet superficial way. Hair done in a uniquely pretty style, makeup brushed carefully over her freckles, eyes glowing brightly. I cleared my throat and greeted her with a simple hello. Hey, she said, barely looking over at me whatsoever. She stepped closer to shut the door behind her. Where are we going? Why is there a thing, like a asterisk there? Change the notes. What the fuck? Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. I didn't do that right. Fuck. I speed dialed and forced... Okay, this is at the end of... Okay, great. I said hurriedly and hung up after a quick bye. This is still Angelica's thing, when I called her and told her stuff that I would never say. I speed dialed and forced a group phone call, and after they all picked up, I simply told them in a single breath, she said yes to a date with John. And there was a chorus of screams. Whether they were pain or excitement, I couldn't tell. Sark, that's me. The past few hours, God, Haley and the others do this every day, were, in the most literal way possible, hell for me. I didn't feel the sense of fabulousness that Haley assured me I would have by the end of this. Not a single bit. I was staring blankly at myself in a floor-to-ceiling window, unsure of what to feel other than sheer hatred at myself for letting this happen, and torn confusion about what I'm about to do with my life anymore. What I'm doing with my life anymore. My hair had been straightened to death, falling in pretty, almost frighteningly uniform sheet with an annoyingly curled tips, and seemed almost blonder than usual as it was pinned back from my face. Looks like Haley's not going to not get a Christmas present this year. And my face. I am at a loss for words, and not in a good way. There is not any words in my very limited vocabulary pertaining to makeup that can describe what in the world Julia has done to my face. My eyes seem to be even bluer than usual, and I don't know, made me, in a way of saying it, more aesthetically pleasing, but in no way, in my opinion, beautiful. Beautiful was an adjective reserved for duct tape, Snapple, and food. As for my outfit, Cameron is going to be in a hole at some point tomorrow. I dared not even look at the mirror a moment longer after I inspected the clothes for barely a second each. There was blue, a lot of blue, and I wonder why. I mean, blue is my favorite color and whatever, but this should be illegal by now. It's been a running gag since middle school. You'd think that it would be old by now, but nope. They stuck me in the most ridiculous shirt ever. Or what might be a hyperbole, because, though I've seen worse, this is still pretty bad. There were sleeves, but they were off shoulder, and Haley slapped me every time I tried to regain some dignity. A belt was practically suffocating me, cinched around my middle. The only part about it I approved was the fact that it was mostly made of duct tape. Oh, and the humanity. The high heels, I swear they topped off at 6 inches. And I wasn't even laughing when they came out of the box. My feet hurt even just looking at them. Jade assured me they weren't so bad, but that's her opinion. She practically sleeps, breathes, and lives in high heels. No, I said. No. What? Tegan asked me in between her bouts of laughter. I'm not doing this. I put my hands in the air as I turned around carefully, utterly afraid of falling on my face. You are not going to leave a guy hanging, said Haley. Standing up a guy just because you don't want to see his face is rude. You obviously don't know what's up, Haley, I replied. Rude and random is my thing. Yeah, but this is a German model, Cameron attempted to reason. Attempted being the key word there. You don't just do that. Especially when he's right at the door right now. Angelica cut in from the doorway, one hand on her hip and the other holding out her tablet, showing us the image of John heading up the pathway to the front door. At this moment, she moved aside as Tegan and Julia looped their arms through mine to steady me as I walked, or more accurately stammered, no, 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 no. I repeated over and over and over again of a familiar feeling seeking in my stomach, and with that plummeting feeling, my nose gradually shifted to continuous whispers of fuck. Fuck, 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 fuck. Julia and Tegan left me at the base of the staircase to fend for myself, muffling giggles as they scrambled back up, tripping over each other in the process. Fall, bitches, I murmured hopefully, but with no avail. I tried to emulate that prideful, confident strut that Jade seems to always have whenever she walks in high heels. It worked for the most part. I managed just barely to keep my balance as I turned the doorknob. Oh, fuck. That's bitch. Oh! J-E-B. John. Okay, this is the part that I was reading earlier because I fucked up. J-E-B. She was beautiful, but not in the same way. Okay, I'm pissed off. What the fuck was that? I was like, I'm not doing that with my hair. I'm too sexy already. Even in my color-clashing clothes, I'm incredibly sexy. I do not need Haley's stupid makeup, and I would never let her do that after what happened during torture weekend. God, Jesus, no! No, 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 no. Not gonna happen. Okay. She was beautiful, but not in the way I had originally seen her. She was beautiful now in a more familiar yet superficial way. Hair done in a uniquely pretty style, makeup brushed carefully over her freckles, eyes glowing brightly. I cleared my throat and greeted her with a simple hello. Why did I just make John sound like a woman? Hey. No. Hey, she said, barely even looking at me over whatsoever as she stepped close to shut the door. The dolt? The door? Door bolt? It says dolt. I don't know what that is. Where are we going? I decided to let you decide, I informed her, since you've lived here for so long. Sydney opened her mouth to say something, then decided against it, obviously. Okay, great. Her voice sounded strained, as did her smile. We're going to the beach. The look in her eyes remained the same, that defiant troublemaker glint, shouting louder than any yell. Question me, and I'll cut off your balls. All right, why not? I agreed and offered my hand to lead her to the car. As expected, she passed right by and denied my chivalry. Sark, me. I was grateful that the stupid ride to the nearest beach was nearly silent throughout the entirety of the 10 or so minutes. We simply sat in the sleek leather confines of or more accurately, Albert's cars. Around halfway through, I got bored of looking at anything but John, and finally, somewhat fidgety. Therefore, I decided to randomly grope around in the air after the dust particles floating suspended through the air, lonely until shown through the light. To my surprise, John noticed my retardation. Instead of even trying to stop me, he joined in. He laughed instead of being annoyed when I swiped at his arm and accidentally scratched it. He snapped my fingers when they came too close to his face, and I swear Julia took over my thoughts right then, because what came to my mind was myself and the word cute. Holy fuck. Albert cleared his throat rather loudly as he pulled up the side of the street perfectly. I almost burst out laughing. Why is it that he drives like a drunken madman most of the time, and only now he decides to drive with perfection? I decided that the others must have paid him off earlier when I wasn't paying attention. Nearly the second that John and I had stepped out of the car, I had barely shut the door before Albert decided to speed off whilst cackling maniacally out the window, blaring the Black-Eyed Peas so loudly it almost qualified as a public distraction. John and I shared a conspiratorial glance and burst out laughing. We started to walk down the steep slope to the beach, his arm ever so slightly outstretched in a silent offering to help me walk down to the shanty shore. So was Albert always like that? John asked, looking back over his shoulder as if Albert was going to be watching us from behind. Sort of, I tried to explain. Slightly more mellow and chill but with everything, but yeah. Chattier than in the car, but quieter. Yeah, you get the gist. John laughed. Yeah. I tripped over a lump of dried up seaweed, and John caught my arm as I started to fall. It felt like electricity running through my flesh. I should know what that felt like. I didn't like it before. I didn't like it now. You know what? I said as I awkwardly straightened back up. What? Fuck high heels. I managed to unstrap, whatever, them from my feet and returned to my normal, average white chick height. This height, also saddened me, made me several inches shorter than 6 foot whatever model John. You know what? John said and leaned down. What? Fuck shoes in general. He slipped off his mint-condition Converse and said, "Yes, he's wearing Converse!" and socks, standing behind me barefoot. We continued walking, and John commented, "I just wish other girls thought the same, too." I looked at him with narrowed eyes, surprised at his reaction. There really was something utterly different about him. I don't know whether I liked it or not. "What the fuck, Angelica? I'm going to tell you!" Oh my Jesus! What is this? That is not me. That is not me. That is some other person, and it is not me. And John, oh my God, he doesn't even exist. First of all. Second of all, just, no. Ooh, no. I'm going to kill you. Honest to God, I'm going to kill you. Oh my God, this is already 30 minutes long. This is a long story, okay? Okay. AMR, Angelica. Cameron had essentially been living her childhood dream for the past 20 minutes. We'd all been split up into different groups for a spy mission. The thing was, it wasn't even an official one. In more accurate, truer terms, we were all simply just creeping on John and Sid in their stupid hangout. Or dare I say it, date. Cameron and I were placed behind a clump of surprisingly fluffy shrubs, both wearing dark green tops to camouflage ourselves against the literal greenery. Tegan and Julia were settled more obviously on a high cliff, simply sitting on a bench. I just hoped Julia was wearing some strong sunscreen, because if she wasn't, she was going to be sunburned like hell in 5 minutes. Their plan for if Sid, by pure chance, looked over at them was to legitimately fake being a lesbian couple, passionately kissing while faced the opposite direction. Haley and Jade were actually on the move, walking parallel to the happy couple of Sid and John from the sidewalk. They chattered as they kept their eyes peripherally concentrated on the very obvious pair. "She took off the high heels like 12 minutes ago. Haley had texted us, 'I hate her.'" Yeah. Tegan added, "What's next, her shirt? Or what about pants?" John took off his shoes for her, Cameron reasoned. If that isn't dedication, I don't know what is. And so the day went on. Sark, that's me. It had been about 30 minutes of chatting, tanning, and for me, slightly sunburning. I learned about John, and John had learned about me. His father died of cancer, and his mother remained a widow, remained faithful to her dead husband, even if death had already did them part. I had to admit that that was true love, however much the definition of the elusive word and concept itself had always evaded me. My own parents were happily retired at Angelica's villa, now partially run by a hired manager in Jason. Dad was still running around screaming, 42 double D, with the stupid bra on half the time, and Mom was trying to convince the chef to let her make broccoli eggs for real. That is totally going to be my parents in a nursing home. Oh my God. Okay, that is perfect. That is great. That is the best part of the story. Okay, that my parents are going to be in the nursing home, named after Angelica. John had 3 siblings, and all of the 3 of their names made me laugh. Matthew, Mark, and Luke. All 4 together were Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Went to bed with their breeches on. John pointed out that for most of his childhood, he and his siblings called their father Vater, or more commonly pronounced as Vader. Their father also apparently used to go up to Luke and say, "Luke, ich bin den Vater. Luke, I am your father." I almost choked laughing. He did also have a Spanish best friend named Gregory and a dog named Tesla. Gregory was something of a closet physics whiz, and though he was a magazine editor. When I asked John about why his dog was named Tesla, he answered with a shrug and quietly intelligent glance. Tesla was a Serbian-American electrical and mechanical engineer, physicist, etc. He invented X-rays. Tesla coils and the SI unit to measure magnetic field strength was named after him. He was cool. And yet, when he worked for Edison, he corrected his boss's sloppily done, inefficient motors and generators. He resigned because he was offered a raise. I said, he was a madman. So why not name my dog after him, John reasoned. I laughed. True. John was something like my old teacher's description of Thomas Jefferson. He was remarkably intelligent, though quietly so. He went to parties only to be in the presence of others, but minutes later, Gregory would find him sitting in the corner with only his phone, straining to read Scarlett O'Hara's or Odysseus's last lines. He wasn't as outspoken as the few other models I've met, though he was terribly opinionated. He hated politics, he hated religion, or rather debating about it. He hated having real mild asthma. When I brought up that I have asthma too, he commented incredibly ignorantly and obliquely, "At least we'd choke and die together." That ended the conversation, as did the terrible luck of me cutting my foot on a ridiculously sharp rock. I fell against John. That time awkwardly, though. I didn't have time to think about it as I bit my lip and said, shit. Shit is right, agreed John. We should get you somewhere that the water and sand won't get in the cut. No shit, Sherlock, I retorted sarcastically, and for once felt bad immediately after saying it. It's fine, I can hop. No way, Peter. John denied my suggestion. You cut your foot, so now I have to drag you somewhere. Not a chance, Everdeen. I said. I shook my head. The odds are not in your favor. They never are, John muttered, and simply picked me up, cradling in his arms like I swallowed nervously, like his bride. Yuck. John walked with me in his arms comfortably, his stride never breaking, and his gaze focused mainly on finding a place where I could patch on my foot. Okay, here is okay. I have many problems with that one section, but I have another problem. Okay, besides my many problems, obviously, because I'm Sydney, but I have another problem. Wasn't Angelica's going to... Angelica, you're going to change the words of this, all the Johns to Julia. First of all, what are you going to do with all the mentions of Julia in the story? Are you going to change it to some other chick? Or what, you're going to give them all the Tegan? I don't know, whatever. And second of all, how the fuck is Julia going to carry me across a beach? Just... That doesn't make any sense at all. So, just think about that. Where was I again? I've never had to be in this position before, I commented quietly, eyes downcast as I played with my fingers. It was always me carrying around the load of my friends, literally and metaphorically. John remained silent, his eyes locked on a location somewhere in the distance. When I looked down again, I swear I could feel his concerned blue gaze on me. I never looked up for our eyes to meet. When he finally set me down, I could feel the blood pulsing out of my foot without even looking, bloody and scarlet. John didn't even look fazed. Neither would I be. I wouldn't be fazed. I get cut all the time. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a first aid kit. Of course. Angelica must have debriefed him on everything he might need to know or have, unless he somehow simply had remarkable instincts. Then again, if he had, he would never have asked me on this hangout prior. The best people always carry the load for others, John told me as he delicately bandaged my foot. They just have to realize they don't have to. I wish your eyes was brown as the bullshit that just came out of your mouth, I replied, and this time our eyes did meet. John leaned forward towards me, and as before I could make the sense of what he was doing, grasped my face with those strong, though gentle hands and kissed me. The world was burning before me, the sand and the waves of the ocean all on fire, and that was what I saw through my mind's eye, and yet I felt nothing. I was frozen numb, unable to break away from the kiss that bound John to me. My senses were heightened unnaturally, and I could feel was the sticky, sweet scent of cotton candy and mint of John. And all I could hear were the crashing of the ocean nearby, and all I could feel was the pressure of John's lips on my arm. Against my everything inside of me that screamed for me to push him away, against my mind that begged me to stop, my heart simply shoved everything aside and forced me to stay in place. And so it was John that broke off. What is this shit? Blue eyes. I didn't know what was so special about them before. I still don't. But they were as stared back at me from so close, so damn close. I wanted to stab them. My heart and mind made a grudging compromise as I said quietly, "You have to do something on your shirt, or you have something on your shirt." When John looked down in confusion at the irrelevance of my comment, I pulled back my arm and slapped him across the face as hard as I could. Yes. The scream was impossible to miss, overtaking Haley's impulsive, unnaturally English-accented yell from the sidewalk of "Snogging!" by sheer loudness. My phone started buzzing like a swarm of fucking bees, and I read through the messages as fast as they came up. "Snogging!" texted Haley, sounding far too giddy for her own good. "Is the world ending yet?" I asked Sid plus Joan 5 ever, Cameron said, and I looked down at her and glared for Sydney. "Oh, shit just went down," Tegan added on. "I love how no one else is even bringing up the total bitch slap," I commented. "Okay, did anyone get that on a record?" Jade asked, and there was a chorus of yeses falling in split record seconds, one after the other, and they were all the most perfect things I have ever heard/read. I texted them and set my phone back into hibernate mode as the texts racked up. J.E.B. There are a few moments of sweet temporary bliss, cab illusion, with the taste of cherry lip gloss. What? Why am I wearing cherry lip gloss? What the fuck? Is that like in I kissed a girl and I liked it. The taste of her cherry chapstick. And I'm not singing that song just because I like it. But I'm singing it because, like, what? Now you got the songs in my head. Fuck you. Why cherry? I will admit I loved every second of it. And then the few moments of my face on fire, the sting of acid, and perhaps the claw marks of a perfectly manicured hand. Mother always told me that this thing called love was endlessly going to be a risky business. I was just too intoxicated by my angel with a shotgun to notice. Okay, temporary bliss, endlessly intoxicated, and angel with a shotgun are all songs by my favorite band, The Cab. Tegan's favorite band, too. Sydney looked absolutely and utterly horrified, though whether it was directed at herself or at me, I wasn't sure. Her radiantly blue eyes were wide open, untrusting, and defiled. I tried to explain, but she cut me off. You? Nothing, Sid said rather harshly and stiffly stood up. She pushed me, and as she stormed past, high heels in hand and hair whipping behind her in a flurry of blonde waves. I stood up and started to race after her, and would have caught up to, had Albert not immediately pulled up to the curb and taken Sydney to anywhere I wasn't. So does that mean you didn't like it? I called after her, then immediately shut up as an elderly woman across the street gave me a dirty look. Yeah, no shit, I didn't like it. I'm Sydney. I wouldn't even put up with it. I would slap him across the face. Before, like, in the middle of it, just be like, grab face. I'd be like, bitch slap. And then, bitch slap. And then, bitch slap. Bitch slap. Bitch slap. And then, bitch slap. Like, a bajillion times. Like, that many times. And I've messed up my hair. Whatever. I was left alone on the sidewalk, barefoot and feeling like nothing more than a stupid lovesick fool. Oh, that's another song by The Cab. I'd barely thought for a moment longer before I decided that I'll run after her, if only just to say goodbye. Amar, you stupid! I called out to John from the bushes, and he turned to look a split second after I'd thrown the paper at his face and ducked back down into the shrubbery. Cameron and I peeked out through the vibrantly green leaves to watch him pick up the crumpled ball of paper. He deliberated over its contents, a simple note telling him the location of where Sydney was heading. It honestly was not that hard to tap into the Limbo's audio recordings when your daughter is a freak of nature tech genius. I have facial expressions shifting from confusion to realization to utter I need a ride now. I couldn't help him there. I decided, so he was simply going to be stuck here knowing where she was, or he's going to run like hell after his, quite literally, dumbass of a date. I'm not a dumbass. Actually, I am. But still. Of course, John, since he wasn't inherently stupid, realized this and slipped on his socks and shoes and started at a full-on sprint. This was the moment that Sid would have wanted to be around for. The moment to watch John's calves work their muscles and would probably be her own term purpose. I don't like the calves! Oh my god, Angelica. I made that comment because of the Renaissance Fair and because Mr. Christensen said that you had to have nice calves. And because Germany was part of the Renaissance. That was the only reason I made that dumb comment that started this whole fucking mess. It's not. Oh my god. Ugh. I turned to Cameron and told her, Cameron, you don't know what dedication is. Sark. That's me. I was sitting barefoot yet again along the highest viewing balcony of the restaurant farthest down from the wharf, Rappa's. I'd stopped eating a while ago, not in the mood for my favorite activity, apart from the rare occasions when I truly naturally sleep, for once in my life. So I was simply sitting, watching the ocean edge closer and the sun creep down behind the horizon. I'd contemplate whether or not I should throw the high heels in the ocean, but decided against it. Though already fairly ruined, they probably still had some value. Sentimental value, I suppose, though I had little sentiment to say about them. John's final words echoed at the back of my man mind, making me impetuously curl my hands into tight fists. So does that mean you didn't like it? What kind of a question was that? How am I supposed to answer that? Like it in what way? Like it in general? I've pretty much dedicated myself to not falling in the one way I will not allow, in love. So, I would much appreciate it for someone to truly explain to me how and why I am supposed to answer this. I started to get a headache simply from my internal conflict, so I decided that reciting things of a lighter, more optimistic topic would help me get rid of my dissent. Before I could even say anything, a far too familiar voice spoke from behind me. Your eyes are blue like the ocean. I cut off John and finished the incredibly messed up pickup line for him, and baby, I'm lost at sea. John sat down beside me, and all was silent, even my mind, which seemed to speak so fervently, so loudly, so maniacally silenced. Look, Sid, John tried to start, but I simply mercilessly shoved a napkin in his mouth and got up. As I was walking away, I heard ever so quietly through gaining volume, and I think you're from another world, and I couldn't love another girl, 'cause you make me feel like I'm intoxicated. I turned around slowly, mouth pressed into a thin line. In a room full of frozen faces. John continued singing, his voice rather lovely in an annoying sort of way. In a moment of fractured time, we eclipse in a conversation as the words, they pass us by. Impulsively, I harmonized on that final line. With you, we could be the only ones here. You have a lovely voice, John complimented me, getting to his feet. I didn't even need to mirror to see my face flushing red. I went around his comment without a response and saying, be like I black out, pass out every time that we touch. And if it hurts in the morning, then it must be love. John continued and clasped my hand in his. I slipped out of his grasp. I want a girl who stays out too late. And when I call, she doesn't answer the phone. Oh, I want a girl who likes it her way. John switched songs smoothly in response. And through it all, you know you'll end up alone. I added on, and he gave me a longing, almost mourning look. I can hear it in your voice. You care, John sang. What? That's a song? I don't know the song. Catching my hand again as his blue eyes stared into my own. Words of impulsive denial got caught in my throat, and I didn't deny it. Let my fingers run through your hair. I'll keep you company at night. And baby, I'm here to make this right. I opened my mouth to say something, but I closed it almost immediately afterward at John's look. Because sometimes you fall on your back, but girl, you're 3 times the lady I'll ever have. And you know it's true. This is a fight I refuse to lose. They say before you start a war, you better know what you're fighting for. I whispered hoarsely. I knew what John's reply would be before he even sang it. Well, baby, you are all that I adore. If love is what you need, a soldier I will be. And with that, he kissed me. Again, with the kissing. And first of all, and second of all, he's German. How does he know all these songs? Like, the Cab is not, I mean, like, obviously, like, a lot of Europeans, like, follow American culture and stuff, but, like, the Cab isn't really that well-known of a band. So how would he know it? AMR. Cameron and I were laughing so damn hard it wasn't even funny. We placed a sound sensor on the glass and broadcast its findings to a private station to the others. We were all sitting near each other, stuffing our faces with clam chowder and listening on the fantastically cute love fest outside. The most utterly ironic part of this happened to be the fact that the sensor was literally designed and made by Sid, as well as that she hadn't even caught us yet. My own inventions are being used against me. Haley forcibly suppressed herself of another scream about snogging and instead texted the British slang continuously. I didn't even see her trying to push him away, Tegan noted. Spoke too soon, I texted back as Sid's voice started up again far too soon. You jinxed it, Jade blamed Tegan. No! Tegan retorted, yes! Jade argued right back, you know what? I texted them, let's just blame Sid. And we all burst out laughing again. Thank the Lord for mostly soundproof glass. J.E.B. Another lovesick fool I am, I suppose. But those moments of fractured time, all honey cherry on my lips, I would have given anything for another few. And I'll run, Sid sang quietly. Have a little faith in me, I continued. You're scared and alone. I'll run! Sydney repeated, only a trace of a smile tugging at the ends of her cherry-sweet lips. And this is why we both break free, this is where we both break free, I said, entwining my fingers with hers. You know what? Sydney asked. What? Fuck that. We'll run. I smiled. That's not good. SARC. And so we ran. I laughed randomly, which was not unusual for me, but this time I felt like one of those darker, lonely bubbles within my soul had just floated away on the melody of John's voice and simply popped. I would have preferred to have gone without the hand-holding in all honesty, but my heart was having a diva fit and didn't let my mind take over. John's touch was warm and still filled me with a lingering, tingling, static feeling. It became familiar quickly and soon disappeared to the impossible electricity evaporating. Our running was cut short, unbelievably short, when I froze and let go of John's hand. Eyes wide open. No, no, no. How is it that this one day BD happens to be right here, right now? John walked back to me cautiously, looking honestly concerned for me. He put his hand around my shoulders right as BD had turned and walked out of the candy shop. Hey, does your foot hurt again? He noticed BD, and BD noticed him at the same moment. BD, whose eyes matched mine and had been only surprised when he saw me, shot a John a more shielded, dirty look. To be completely honest, I was proud of him right then and there. As for John, I don't know what he would make of my having a son and not being married, or even remotely interested in anyone else. Anyone in general. Forget what I said before. Shut up. BD. FRCO, Fergalicious. My mind was just blown right now. 5 minutes ago, I was just hanging out with my friends at the wharf, as close to being a normal kid as I ever could be, and 2 seconds later, my parental unit just sews up and essentially slaps me in the face. The guy looked way too perfect to be real. Chiseled features as if he was carved by a fucking Michelangelo or some shit. Brilliantly blue eyes, dirty blonde hair tousled naturally or unnaturally into perfection. I hated him. Perhaps it was just an impulsive reaction to a guy with his arm around over my parental unit's shoulder, reasoned one half of me. Oh yeah, and perhaps it's just the impulsive reaction of deer are green and moonwalk in front of cars to get run over, yelled the other half sarcastically. Sure, I could date a couple of chicks and chill with it, but her dating someone else, can someone just end the world right now? I couldn't even imagine her dating, let alone married. I didn't have to look behind me to see Mika, Elizabeth, Alyssa, and Trick's looks of approval towards Sid, or Dimitri's look of horror that I'm quite sure I had on my own face as well. I admit, I couldn't quite tell what Robin's expression might be. She remained a wild card, though I guess she might have been appalled or neutral. Who? I said, unsure of where to put my feelings into words. This is my John, BD. Sid introduced the model, and I raised my eyebrow at her possessive description, and this so-called John smirked. Sid hastily corrected herself. I mean John. This is John. And John, this is BD, my scion, descendant, heir, juvenile unit, whatever. She looked away. I swear she seemed nervous. Or perhaps that was rare. It was that rare embarrassment. A.K.A. your son, John said, eyes focused intently on me. He sounded numb. Yeah, and that's my parental unit who you are with. I told the model stiffly, get your hands off of her. Hand, singular. John had the nerve to correct me, even though he removed his hand from Sid's shoulder. Okay, Sydney said, I'm done, let's go. I'm going, I'm done. Sydney grabbed my hand and tugged me along behind her. Thank whatever Lord is out there. I hated John. AMR. The rest of us had somehow made it back to the house before Sydney and by the magical powers of God. And technically, whoever invented cars. But you know what? Whatever. We'd stormed in through the back door and settled in the downstairs living room, trying to make ourselves not seem as out of breath as we actually were. When Sid burst into the house with BD, she quickly shoved him up the first few stairs and muttered something about sitting in a quiet room and trying to forget everything that recently happened. Of course, BD would simply try to forget in his way, talking loudly with the rest of his friends and concentrating on other things. Try being the word here. No way in hell would BD forget that horrifying, strange sight. He almost never does. When Sydney collapsed face down on the empty couch, not even taking into account Haley and Julia's disgusted looks. Of course they react so. They were the ones who had spent hours on Sid's hair and makeup, both of which looked quite utterly disfigured when she turned her face, crushing her curls and smearing blue eyeshadow across the couch. I am so done with this shit, Sydney informed us with a weary sigh. What, Cameron asked suddenly, taking on her therapist personality with her voice careful and expression concerned. This concept of love, Sydney said, sighing. So you admit you love John? Cameron asked, breaking character for a moment to poke Haley and giggle. I mean, I don't love him in the way that you weirdos would say that I do. Sydney answered slowly, careful with her words for once. It's like, he's cool. He has a cool life. He is German, a model, and has nice calves, Jade finished for her. Of course you love him. He is your dream guy. See what I mean? Sydney said, sitting up and curling into a ball. Yep. Cameron replied, rolling her eyes. I love him in the way that I love you guys, like a bro or whatever, Sid tried to explain. But he's still kind of cute to you, right? Mika called down from the spiral staircase. Why, of course. The kids would be listening to this parental conversation. In a sort of messed up, annoying way, yeah. Sydney said, not quite denying the question, yet not forthrightly answering it either. I smiled reminiscently as she continued. Kind of like Angelica, or Cameron, or BD. Hey, Sid, I said. And she just looked at me grinning. Okay, that's not what I meant, but whatever. You can think you're sexy as much as you want. I just want to remind you, the runway's tomorrow, and you are therefore required to see John again. I'm sorry, Sydney said, pretending to snap back and focus. Did you just slap me? J.E.B. I was walking down the runway, not looking directly forward as I usually did. Instead, my instructions were to simply be me. I'd watch the others sing down the illuminated pathway, a few dribble soccer balls, or once juggle fresh produce. I skipped happily down the glowing red strip, eyes searching in the crowd for the lovely face of Sydney. It took only a few seconds, thankfully, since she was sitting in the front row, not meeting my eyes. I stopped mid-runway and started to dance. Less for me, more for her, who could not, would not, look me in the eye. Finally, some genius traced my line of vision and shone a spotlight down on Sydney, shining an incandescent halo down on Sid's still curled hair and now clear face. She gave in and looked up at me as the crowd cheered. I extended my hand towards her, and she grudgingly stumbled up by the sheer force of her friend's pushes. Sid took my hand before the screams of take it, truly reached its peak of volume, and I pulled her up onto the stage. From there, I could tell that she was putting on a smile, her face only for the cameras, not me. We danced on stage for a while, and Steve had to rush backstage, skipping with long, nearly evenly matched strides. When we finally did slip behind the flickering white and rainbow panels, Sydney slapped me. It didn't quite hurt quite as much as the previous 2 times. I'd almost decided that it was possibly just because I was used to it by now before I realized that it was because she was holding back. Why the hell did you do that? She yelled at me, not even retaining the half-heartedness of her slap and her voice. I started to attempt to rationalize myself and my feeling before I just concluded that taking her face back into my hands and giving her a long kiss would sum it all up. Sark. I decided that, as my heart seemed to have an army marching inside of it, but my brain remained completely functional, this guy must seriously have either dysfunctional vocabulary or mental issues if all he can do around me is make out with me. I'm not going to disclose whether I liked it or hated it, but I will say that those kissing was not exactly what I thought it would be. All my 20-whatever years of living, I'd never kissed anyone, and I had no intention to at any point in my life. I punched John in the chest wearily. Why do you keep doing that every time we see each other? Because 3 times the charm, John replied slyly, a devilish half-smile lighting up his facial features. It was oddly familiar. I realized with a sudden pang it was a smile that was so often on my own face. I hugged him. Better to say goodbye now. Why? Disturbed creases disturbed the chiseled beauty that was John's face. My friends will tease me to no end, I reasoned, leaning my head against John's chest. Tomorrow, though, we'll see you off, so that person you see, she won't be me. So you love me? John's voice was quiet and careful, and he put his lips atop my head. No. You hate me? I was silent for a moment. No. When he finally slipped that piece of paper into my hand, his phone number written in classically pretty script, I could feel my face burn. I took a single glance at it and started to rip it up, the slender shreds of the scarlet letter falling to the ground silently. My gaze was locked on John's face as I tore his love into pieces, watching his love crumble, watching his anguish in his eyes, watching his spirits fall. Bye, John, I told him, as he looked down at the fragments of his phone number. I tapped his chin twice and allowed myself a sly smile. Chin up! I turned and walked with my face an emotionless canvas to my friends, letting John see that tiny scrap of his name still in the palm of my hand before pinching it in half and stuffing it quickly into my pocket. Dear John, it truly was a small world after all. Angelica, I hate your guts.